Hey everyone, this is Jennifer Beamer, owner-operator of Expertly Dyed Art by Science, and today is the daily vlog, episode number 35. And today I thought I would do something a little bit interesting. Normally when I do my videos I have a lot of experience or I've done a lot of research before I do the video, but today I actually on purpose didn't do any research, and in a second I'll tell you what the subject of the video is if you haven't already read the title. The reason why I decided to go this way is because I know that some people out there, they don't really know a lot about particular fibers, and you might be in a situation where you're at a fiber show or a convention, or just something that happens across your path on the internet at some point and you're like, oh, I need that. We've all kind of been there. You might be hesitant to just jump in and try a fiber that you've never heard of before or never used. And I wanted to kind of do that today. So I don't know a whole lot about plant fibers. I know a lot about wool fibers because I've used it a lot. Plus, it was part of the focus of my master's thesis. I was using alpaca fibers to make surrogate archaeological samples for destructive testing. And I decided that because a lot of you might be in this position in the real world, I would put myself, albeit a little bit artificially, into that same kind of world. So I have a really great contact in Japan, and she was so sweet and decided to just send me some things to talk about during my videos, so I'm indebted to her for doing this for me. And she always sends such generous samples. She's amazing. Anyway, I have in front of me 4 different types of fibers. And some things I know a little bit more about than others. So I'll just kind of dig right in. I'll start with the fibers I don't really know that much about. The first one being Tencel Fiber. Now, I know that this is some kind of recycled wood pulp fiber that goes through some extrusion process to form pliable fibers like you can see here. Now I'm going to probably have to take videos, or photos, because it's not going to come up very well in this video. But this is a ridiculously shiny fiber. I mean, pretty much like silk, that kind of shine. It doesn't have quite the same feel as silk. But it does kind of remind me of bamboo fiber, which I have spun quite a bit of. So in that way it's probably very similar, but I think this is a more generic product because it's not specifically from one type of tree or anything like that. It's a mix or a blend. But it's a really great fiber. I've only spun Tencel Fiber once. It was a 50-50 blend of merino and Tencel Fiber. And I actually totally loved the result because it was sort of like a shiny wool, and that's difficult to get anyway. So here is Tencel Fiber, and it's very shiny. It's kind of a, it's mostly white, but it's not perfectly crystal clear white fiber. And it doesn't really have much of a smell. It probably smells a little bit like the conditions under which it was stored, which is relatively benign, so it doesn't really have a smell. So that's about all I know about Tencel Fiber, and I think Tencel is it's a registered name. It's like the company name is called Tencel, and this is the fiber that they produce, I think. Next is this hemp top. Now, a little bell is going off in my head that it's probably very similar to linen or flax. Actually, flax is the raw fiber form. I know a little bit more about flax than I do hemp specifically, but I'm assuming that they're probably a very similar fibers. So hemp, I had a lot of hemp necklaces when I was growing up. And I learned that if you showered with them on, the water and I guess maybe some just wear and tear would help soften the necklace so that it would be soft and pliable. Because when I first got one, I think I was about 13, and a boy bought it for me. Much to my dad's chagrin, I guess. But, I didn't know this about hemp until I was talking with a friend, and she said, "Why is your necklace so hard?" And I was, "What?" I take it off before I shower, you know. And she said, "Totally wear it while you shower and it'll get soft." And I did, and I was like, whoa. So I do know that hemp softens when you get it wet and as you wear it. But it's still a pretty durable fiber, that necklace. I probably still have it somewhere in like a little heart box that I bought in the late 90s. Probably just aged myself a little bit there because that was like high school for me. Anyway, so this fiber, looking at it, it's not very shiny. It's dull. There are pieces which seem to be thicker than others, which makes me think that the hackling processing of this particular fiber wasn't as maybe refined as you might be able to do by hand. But you know, there's some larger pieces. I don't know if you'll really be able to see. I'm trying to pull this apart gently so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Are we going to focus? Ah, there we go. But there are some pieces in here that are a little bit thicker than others. So let's see if we can get this focused. There we go. You see how thick that is? It looks like a piece of hay almost. And that is kind of mingling in with these very, very soft, very fine fibers. It's actually surprisingly soft, more soft than I thought it would be when I first took it out of the bag. So there we have hemp. All right, now we're going to kind of move into some of the fibers that I know a little bit more about, albeit not that much more. The next one here is cotton top, and it is incredibly soft, like ridiculously soft. I just want to like make a poof and then just put it on. I don't know what to do with it. I just want to wear it somehow. Now, most of the time you're going to see this fiber spun with a drop spindle or supported spindle, not with a spinning wheel. However, I have seen videos and in person of people spinning cotton in this form with a spinning wheel, which is going to be part of my challenge to see you know, how well that works. But it's extremely soft. It's kind of like touching amazing cotton balls. The cotton balls of today, just they're not quite like what I remember when I was a kid. I think they actually have polyester in them now. They're not 100% cotton. But it's so amazingly soft. I don't know how else to describe that. And it looks like it's a pretty short staple, as cotton normally is. You can kind of see, maybe. Will you focus? I'm trying to just let the autofocus do this because sometimes, and it's not focusing, because sometimes when I adjust it personally, I forget to unfocus it. So there, you can kind of see it's really short staple. And of course it takes time, and I have no accuracy with the mouse when I'm trying to talk. Anyway, so it's very soft, it's very smooth, it looks very uniform. Of course I didn't smell the hemp, but it has almost no smell at all. It probably, you know, has as much smell as my shirt, which actually is 100% cotton. Smell the hemp real quick. Ooh, it has a very woodsy, earthy smell to it. It's kind of weird. Never be ashamed of putting your nose into fiber. Just be careful that there might be something there that you might not want to take a deep breath of. But smelling a fiber, it tells you just as much about the fiber itself as touching it and looking at it. So definitely get your nose in there and take a good whiff. So here we have the cotton in combed top form. This will be interesting to spin because, like I said, I've only ever seen people really talk about spinning this as like with a supported spindle because of its incredibly short staple length. But we'll see that it, you know, if it's in its combed top form, maybe it's slightly easier to spin with a spinning wheel. And you know, I've got my wheel over here to try it out. So we'll see how that goes. Cotton can come in a variety of different colors. They're all natural, so you can have something that's almost pure white to something that's brown, basically, with yellows and tans and beiges sort of in between. This is pretty much as white as I think cotton can get without it being bleached. So this is probably natural white. It's like a slightly pinkish yellow off-white color. And it's really clean. There's almost nothing in here. There's a teeny little bit of vegetable matter that I can see on the surface, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, and if you are a hand spinner and you want to sort of grow your own cotton, it's not the easiest thing to grow, but it's fairly easy for people who don't have like animals that they can keep, even bunnies. It's fairly easy to keep and maintain, and then you get a pretty decent harvest at the end. But you know, you'd have to have at least a green thumb to get a plant to stay alive for I don't know how many months it needs to be before the bolls form. Anyway, so there's those three, and then here is the last one, the linen top, which is actually flax. It doesn't technically become linen until it is spun. And now this smells very similar to the flax, or sorry, to the hemp. I do know a little bit more about flax, partially because I was educated by these two super sweet older people. It was a couple. They were at the fiber event in Greencastle, Indiana, a couple years ago, and they had this whole demonstration where they were using I got fiber stuck to my nose now. They were using the tools that would have been used 50 years ago or more to process this type of fiber. And they actually grew a small crop themselves that they used for demonstrations. So they had, like, in the corner, kind of stacked up in the corner of their display, a bunch of flax that they grew. And they went through the rutting process. And basically the rutting process is, this is a bast fiber, very much like hemp, although I can't actually confirm that because I don't know. Right now I don't know. But this is a bast fiber, so basically you have a stalk, and inside the stalk is this potential fiber. Now, when it's ready to be harvested, it's cut off the bottom, and it's either field retted or otherwise wet retted. So wet retting basically is a process by which you rot the external fiber, like the stem, so that you could remove it and reveal this wonderful bast fiber underneath. And field retting basically is you put it out into a field where there's dew and damp, and you just kind of let it rot for, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks, like 5 to 7 weeks-ish for that process to be complete for just that harvest. Like if you have multiple harvests available, you're going to have to do this process several times. And it does take a while because you just have to let it sit out there. Now, wet retting is a much faster process. You basically submerge it into a pit of water. You might have to hold it down with some bricks or something, and then you let it rot underwater for a couple of weeks. Then you remove it, you dry. In both cases, you remove them, you dry them so that the outside is easier to remove. And you know, then it's basically ready for. I think I inhaled a piece of fiber. It's just flying around in here. But basically, it's dried out so that it's ready for the processing to remove all the external stuff and reveal this beautiful fiber inside. Now, there's also stream retting, which is very much like wet retting or pit retting. in that the water from a stream is flowing over the flax while it's submerged, but it's a little bit cleaner because you don't have stagnant water. Basically, it produces a much lighter colored fiber, and it does do it about as fast as pit retting does, but it you have to be near a stream, and a stream can only be so big, and if you're using that for your water source, you probably don't want to contaminate it with something that's rotting. just as a obvious common sense point, you don't want to, well, we won't get there. But basically, once it's dry, you put it through these series of processes where you have like the fiber or the stems, and you like take just a plank of wood, and you kind of run it over the stem to sort of break it up a little bit. There's also I've seen a device where you it's kind of like a sawhorse with the middle part missing, and then a piece that comes up very much like a paper cutter, and you put the stems in there, and you like pull them in or out, and you go up and down with the piece that sort of bends. It takes the fiber and like kind of bends it in the middle so that you can remove the stem of it more easily. And then it goes through a hackling phase where you have a set of progressive hackles which get finer and finer as you go. So you'll have a really coarse hackle which will remove sort of the big pieces, and then you have like a medium hackle which will remove a little bit more. And you can either stop here and have something very coarse for spinning into like twine or rope or nets. You can use it for making, really rough woven bags like burlap sacks or something. Or you can just keep refining it with combs which have, or hackles rather, they're like a big block, like this big, of just usually iron or some other kind of metal tine sticking up from it, and they get closer and closer and closer together so that you can get a very fine fiber like this. And some of the finest flax, it feels almost like silk. It's very smooth, it's a little bit shiny, and it has an incredibly long staple length because you're talking about the whole length of the flax plant itself. So the fiber length could be, I don't know, anywhere between 12 inches and like 24 inches. So they can be quite long and very sturdy. So then the only other thing that I know about the spinning process is the fact that the fiber is usually wet spun, and once it's wet spun, it holds together surprisingly well. I actually am very excited to get started with this process because, when you see something done, you kind of want to go out and do it yourself. So I'm looking forward to actually doing this process. I don't have a dye staff or a distaff, or however you want to pronounce that particular word. I've heard all kinds actually. So it will be a little bit interesting spinning this because apparently because of the long staple, when you pull one of the fibers out to spin, it might grab a bunch of other fibers, and if the staple length is like this long, you're going to be pulling a fiber end that way, and it's going to just sort of pull all of these fibers out with it. So I've seen people where they have to like wrap it up in a little blanket to prevent that from happening. So we'll see. And I'm also interested to see if there's two kinds of flax preparations. There's one which has like a shorter staple length, and it's suitable for people who maybe want to do it recreationally. And then there's also other people who want to do it like for reenactments, or if they're trying to make period pieces. It's best to use the hand hackled version. In the hand hackled version, you'll get like a little bump like this, and it looks like a little skein of fiber. And when you undo it, that is the whole length of the fiber. So it basically represents a staple length. and it's all gathered together in a bundle, and it's tapered on the ends because some pieces are shorter or longer than others. And apparently that is the best flax to spin for those types of like period piece stuff. But it takes a slightly larger learning curve working with that because, like I said, it's one staple length. So if you pull from one end, then the other end will pull, and it might grab other fibers from that end, and you can quickly get a huge mess. So I guess they, you know, and then like the commercial process probably has something to do with that as well, where they can't necessarily just do individual pieces because it becomes a logistic nightmare trying to manage all these small pieces and fill orders in a quick and timely manner. So anyway, I'm not sure about that whole history. I'm just speculating at this point, but that's kind of what I know about flax, based on actually my current research, which is being written up into a hopefully published paper soon. Anyway, so this was my introduction into plant fibers. Now, this isn't everything. It was just what was sent to me, and I'm very interested to get started with it. I'm going to take some pictures for the blog as well, so you can kind of see more up close what I'm talking about. Anyway, sorry for being a little bit long-winded, but you know me, that's what I do. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. If there's any questions or comments, you can post those in the comments below. If you want to follow me on Twitter or find me on Facebook, those links are there as well, including Twitter and Pinterest and Instagram, where I kind of post some non-fibery related things that interest me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye!